I'm going to read a set of quotes from a well-known pastor. This is from a blog post that he wrote a few years back. So I'm quoting now. Natural revelation teaches us that the natural submission of the wife to the husband. These realities are in our bones, and and to revolt against them lies at the foundation of our current cultural madness. Doesn't sound too bad, right? Okay, let me read it again. Another quote. Women have a deep creational need to be loved and led, so they might submit and follow, and men have a deep creational need to be respected and followed, and when these needs are thwarted or otherwise frustrated, the end result is deep unhappiness for both sexes. So I'm taking this from a larger context, and I'll tell you what it is later, and you can go read it if you want to. But here's some more quotes from that same blog post. So first two don't sound too bad, okay? So let me read some more. Submission is an erotic necessity. Another quote. The general dominance of men over women is inescapable. And another quote from this Christian pastor is. The sexual act cannot be made into an egalitarian pleasuring party. A man penetrates, conquers, colonizes, and plants. A woman receives, surrenders, and accepts. That's the end of the quotes. That last quote, you might not, okay, I know who that is. And if you don't, then I'll tell you later. Okay, so today's episode, I will be interviewing my wife right here. And she's going to give you what she feels is the biblical role of the wife's duty to the husband. How a wife should respond, and probably how a husband should respond too. She'll probably tell you about that too. But we've heard a lot about um, biblical submission from the woman. Well, she's going to give you her take on it today. So you don't want to miss this episode. So stay tuned. All right. Tell her who the quote is from.
Sure. Might as well.
It's from Doug Wilson. And this was from probably a dozen or more years ago. I think from 2013, before he became YouTube and X and Twitter, whatever else it is. He did a blog post called Blog and Mablog. I guess that's supposed to sound clever. Blog and Mablog. But anyways, we do not adhere to the views and teachings of these types of train of thought. And then we're talking about this Doug Wilson guy because he was recently on CNN about a month ago, and so it got a lot of attention. And we are Christ-centered marriage and family. We don't want you to think because we are promoting Christian marriage that we are promoting that style of marriage. We're not. And you can go back and read our videos, and you can see that we don't promote that stuff. We do promote biblical standards, and we do cite some of the same scriptures that these other guys, they call it the patriarchal guys, or the patriarchal is kind of a newer way that they say it. Um, Back us older people, we used to call it fundamentalists. The fundamentalist group, Pentecostals, holiness or whatever. I guess some Baptists can be fundamentalists too. Are the Catholics fundamentalists?
Mm, I don't.
They kind of see marriage as husband and wife are equal.
Yeah, and they're like, don't get divorced, like ever for
They
any
don't really.
reason.
They don't really tell you about marriage roles. I guess.
Not really, no.
Don't get divorced
Not that I remember.
and they're not big on birth control here.
No, yeah.
Mormons are fundamentalists. Mormons are patriarchal. Mormons believe in the male dominance thing. So we don't. We have a totally different view. We have a biblical view, and we've been trying to explain that. If I gave a take on it a week or so ago, if you haven't seen that, go back and watch my video on how a husband should serve his wife. And I use the same scriptures that we're going to use for my wife tonight. The same scriptures that I use for the husband. So most of what these patriarchal guys like Doug Wilson, most of what they state and they teach really don't have biblical foundation. I know a lot of people are going to be upset, that I'm saying that they don't have biblical foundation. They twist it and they make it sound clever, but it's not what it really putting it in the context of what these um, authors of the Bible wrote, Paul, and even in Genesis, first Peter, what Peter wrote. It's not. It doesn't mean what the patriarch guys try to make it mean. So we're gonna do our best to try to clarify that today. Husbands are not created to conquer their wives. And back to these quotes. Submission is an erotic necessity. Submission is an erotic necessity. What is he trying to say? I'm not really sure what he's trying to say. I'm telling you right now, as somebody that knows the Greek, how to read the Greek text, that word, the erotic is not a form of love that's in the Bible. You have, I don't even know if they have storge. I know you got agape and you got philo. I know erotic is not in there. The word eros from the Greek, where you get erotic, it's not in the New Testament. It's not in the Bible. So I don't know where Doug Wilson is trying to. I don't know why he's trying to go here. That submission is an erotic necessity. Sounds like he's got a hang up with sex. So does that sound like to me? Sound like these patriarchal guys. They like sexual dominance, which that's very concerning. The general dominance. There it is. Doug Wilson quote: "The general dominance of men over women is inescapable." Do you feel okay? Here we go. This is not on the script, but this is gonna be question number one on my interview with my wife. Do you feel that it's necessary for me as your husband to dominate you?
No.
How would you? What form of okay? How
When you think of the word dominate, you think of like power and like you're the, I don't know how to say it. You have all the power and I don't have any.
how would you describe me as the headship role of a husband over you?
I say you have authority, but your authority is in more of a protective and provision type role. It's not in a dominating role.
I'm responsible for your needs and
Yeah.
your welfare and your health
Spiritual
and
needs and
yeah,
financial needs
yeah.
and all that stuff.
It's not to dominate. Okay, in our last episode, I spoke on the husband's role in marriage according to God's word. I'm using some of the same scripture references, but last time I omitted the ones that spoke to the wives. Today we're going to use the same references, and we're going to talk about the ones that speak to the wives. And I'm going to have Lori elaborate on these things. We'll start with Ephesians chapter 5, and I'm going to turn there. And I spoke on where it talk about Paul was saying, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church, and love your wives as yourself. Um, we're going to talk about what Paul says concerning the wives. Before we do that, I want to give it a little context here. So Paul is talking about roles and responsibilities for Christians with each other. As a group of believers, we are not something that I've said in my Sunday class for. Christianity is not a private faith. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a private faith. Some people say, "Well, I just keep my faith in Jesus to myself." Well, that's not really the
That's
point.
not what Jesus tells
It's
us to
not.
do.
Yes. So, as a believer in Christ, you have to do two things. You have to be the light to the world and to tell others about Jesus. Let others see Jesus in you, and you have to get along with other believers in Christ. So, in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, Paul tells the believers in Ephesus to be subject to one another in the fear of the Lord. So, as we want to serve and obey Jesus Christ in all things, we should also want to serve others, humble ourselves to other believers, and to not uh, shun others or be um, enemies with other believers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we should want to subject each other. We want to live in harmony with each other as believers. If we can't get along if we as Christians can't get along with other Christians, what good are we?
Mm-hmm.
And we got it when we try to go out in the world and spread the love of Jesus, and they say, "Well, y'all can't even get along with each other."
Yeah.
What I want to what I want to be a part of a religion that the people in that religion can't even get along. You wouldn't want to be a part of something where the people that's in that group don't even get along. So Paul's saying to the believers, the Christians in Ephesus, be subject to one another. And then he says, wives, be subject to your own husband, as to the Lord. He's kind of elaborating on what he've already stated. Christians, be subject to each other. And in the same way, wives, be subject to your husband. Now, nowhere's in there that it says, wife, the husband is the dominator, and you just take it. He doesn't say that. Um, so we're getting to our first question here to my wife. She's going to give you the Christian wife's perspective. Verse 22, that Paul states that the wives are to be subject to their husbands, just as he stated Christians to be subject to each other. Wives be subject to their husbands, just like the wife would be to the Lord. So that's what Jesus Christ wants her to do. If she is a obedient servant of Jesus Christ, then she should be in submission to her husband. So, this is for you. What does submitting to a husband um, as the wife would to Christ, what's it look like?
So I jotted some notes down here. So Jesus calls us all to put others before ourselves. So in marriage, as a wife, I just consider him before myself. I'll ask him before I make any plans, not because I'm asking him permission, but it's just, to me, it's just considerate to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this here this day. And do we have anything planned, or is there anything you want to do? 99% of the time, he's like, yeah, sure, go, that's fine, do that. Just like today, I met my sister. Uh, we did some pottery painting, and so we're going to donate to the church, and went and got lunch together. And I mean, we've been planning that for a couple weeks. So, I was like, hey, is this okay if I do that? And I'll ask him to, if I want to spend a large amount of money on something, or if any big decisions. He always asks me what I think, but he has a final decision on big, big money things or any other life changing decision type things, and always let him, submit to what he thinks is best. And even though he does seek my opinion and what I think about things, so I just think, submitting to him is like just putting his needs before mine, and letting him uh just have the final say on things that affect us.
So I think about something. The patriarchal guys, the fundamentalists, they want to say that the husband tells the wife what to do and she just stays quiet. Now, we don't think that way, okay? Not at all. And she's described a real life situation of how we interact with each other. So, how about the opposite end? The egalitarian is basically husband and wife kind of do their own thing, and they're like equal partners. But that leads to the liberal views, to where in some instances a wife ends up being a dominator. So, do you think that in a biblical marriage that the wife can just be demanding and um, of the husband? I will do this. I will do that, and I don't care what you think.
No, that's
Uh,
not going to work.
yeah, that's definitely not what the Bible and Jesus Christ expects. Okay, so now in verse 23 in chapter 5 of Ephesians says, "For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, he himself being the Savior of the body. But as the church is subject to Christ, so also the wives ought to be subject to their husbands and everything." All right. So, Lord, how would you describe the husband being the head of the wife in a modern Christian marriage, today's society?
Um, well, we kind of touched on this earlier, but the husband, I feel like the Bible talks about, the husband submitting to Jesus, and so we submit to our husbands, and so the husband is the one who needs to be spiritually leading his family, providing financially, and that doesn't mean like the wife can't go get a job necessarily, but I work. Not everybody's like that, but he is the main responsible one to make sure we have what we need. We have a roof over our head, and we have food to eat, and clothes to wear, and that kind of stuff, and
I manage the chaos.
manage the chaos, and and protects us physically too, just to make sure we're safe. And so, and I'm completely okay with letting him do that. I don't feel like that's oppressive or anything like that. I'm happy to let him lead and do that
Yeah,
for
and
us.
spiritually too. I'm not saying that I do like some people, and I tell her what she can read or what Bible study she can go to, and well, if you want to go to a women's group thing, you make sure you run it by me first. And I might say no, you can't go. I don't do that. There's some of the fundamentalists and patriarchal guys or whatever that they go like that. But the husband should lead the wife spiritually, and the opposite of that is the wife is the only spiritual person in the house, and the husband is just a deadbeat. That's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. That's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. And there are some marriages, even where the husband even goes to church. He's just the bump on the log. He's just there, and the wife's the spiritual leader. The wife should not be the spiritual leader of the household. Man, God bless these spiritual wives. We need them, but the husband better get in line and better recognize that this wife is spiritual. I need to get with it. Because if the wife is more spiritual than the husband and she's leading spiritually, the husband is lacking. The husband is not doing his role. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Verse 24, chapter 5 of Ephesians. We read that too. Um, where it says, wife should submit to her husband in all things. You have any other things to consider
I just
in
put,
all things?
I just reiterated that I put your needs before mine. So I feel like, Jesus is calls us to put him first and put others second, and then we're, last. And so I think that goes in marriage too. He tries to put my needs before his. He's talked in his videos about not having 1,000 hobbies and where he's never home, and those types of things. And I think wives should do the same thing. Like we should consider our husband's needs before we do go anywhere, playing a bunch of, we shouldn't have 1,000 hobbies either. That's keeping us away from the house and keeping us away from him and keeping us away from time together. So I think that's just kind of goes both ways.
What causes, in reality, what causes marriages to split?
Lack of communication,
Yeah,
lack of spending time together,
like
because
spending time together.
marriage is work. Like
Mhm.
you you can't just you know float and expect us to just naturally come together. We
So
have to
if
work at it.
are Christian marriages exempt from problems?
No.
So if I don't love you like Christ loved the church, and you don't submit to me like Christ expects you to, um, if you are for one of those, you do your thing, I do my thing, and I don't give you the attention you need, and I'm demanding, and you don't respect me, it ain't gonna be long until one of us is going the sinful route,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're going the sinful route, and we are seeking something else that we shouldn't be seeking, right?
Mm-hmm. You might just leave.
Yeah, and
just,
like, like,
just leave.
okay. And the last thing here from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33, it says, nevertheless, each individual among you is to love, each husband is to love his own wife, even as himself. And the wife must see to it that she respects her husband. So, how does a wife respect her husband? A Christian wife.
Um, I've talked about this before, but like not bad mouthing your husband in front of people, especially on social media. Uh, when whether you're with one person or whether you're with a bunch of people or whether you're on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, don't badmouth,
Mm.
don't air all your things that, get on your nerves or anything negative like that. Because then that puts a bad image of your husband to everybody else. And that's not okay. I don't think that's okay. Don't be naggy, don't nag and constantly criticize and constantly, you know, um, just negative, negative, negative all the time. If, if you want him to do something, ask him to do something, but don't like constantly bug him about it. Or when he does do things like, do the dishes, he's really good about helping with dishes and laundry and whatever. And he might hang up clothes differently than I do, but I don't go behind him and go, "You did that wrong. It should be over there."
That's what
Or
Doug Wilson
yeah,
tells. That's what Doug Wilson says you need to do to husbands. If she don't do certain tasks to your expectation, you need to correct her. That's what he writes.
yeah,
Anyways, I'm sorry.
that's okay. And then on the opposite side of that, you need to, and this is probably something I need to be better at myself, but to encourage him and to compliment him and to, recognize those things he's doing well. He's really good at budgeting. He does her grocery shopping, and I'm glad to let him do that. So, just to make sure
Manage the
that,
chaos.
yeah, make sure you not only not nag, but that you also make it a point to try to get in some positive there when you can and make sure he knows that you do appreciate what he does. And um, even if he's not like the best husband and there are things he could do better, find those things he's doing well and encourage him. And then maybe he'll want to do those other things that you don't see him doing because why should he bother if you're just going to nag, nag, nag,
That's
nag,
right.
nag all the
That's
time?
right. Do you think men, even Christian men, get to the point of like, what's the point?
Probably.
She nags and she's so hard to deal. She's just so hard to deal with, And what's the point? What's the point in trying?
hmm I'm sure.
So, so, um, there's two things here. If you hold that hardcore fundamentalist view, patriarchal.
hmm
I don't even know why they call it that.
Yeah,
That's so
I think it's
they wanted to sound biblical.
yeah, they want to sound good, but
That's, but if you hold that view, then the woman's she's kind of trapped. Well, really, I
mhm,
got to do what he says. Hopefully he'll be nice to me, and if I do what he says, I mean, he'll be nicer and nicer. But if I don't, he's gonna be rough on me. And what happens? And I'm gonna make this comment. I'm gonna move on from it. But what happens in these fundamentalist um, marriages, patriarchal, whatever you call it, where the husband thinks he can rule with a heavy hand, is if they're not educated clearly on God's word, and if their character is what do you call it, aggressive, and if they are heavy tempered or just immature, it can be a problem for the wife. It could lead to abuse and
mhm,
just bad things. And
mhm,
I'll stop there. So okay, so we're gonna look at one more topic here. Peter writes in First Peter chapter 3 about wives being submissive to their husbands, and it speaks of wives living with a non-believing husband. The fundamentalists don't like to talk about this. They like to skip over it. I don't think they understand it. I really don't think the patriarchal guys, maybe even Doug Wilson, I don't think they truly understand what Peter's writing about here. And even Paul in First Corinthians chapter 6 and 7, I don't think they truly understand what's being written here. Okay, I'm gonna read it. It says, um, in the same way, to where, and this is First Peter chapter 3, verse 1, to where he goes back to chapter 2, to where we have to be obedient and live in obedience to Christ because Christ gave his life for us. So in this chapter, in the same way, wives, be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives. Now, here's the thing that I don't think a lot of Christian men and even educated, so-called educated Christian men, pastors, and fundamentalist groups, I don't think they understand the whole part where it says, even if they are disobedient to the word. So what's going on here is you're talking about these guys, Peter and Paul, um, even John. These guys were preaching and teaching to the believers, the very first we call the very early Christian believers. Christianity was just beginning, as we know it, in the first century. So there were a lot of situations where a wife became a Christian, but the husband was not, or the husband became a Christian and the wife was not. So it it's pretty clear to me here that Peter is addressing this to where if you have a wife who is a believer, but the husband is disobedient to the word, I mean, he's not a believer. And the people that Peter was writing to, they would understand this. Okay, yep. Yeah, my husband's disobedient to the word. He don't believe in Jesus. He don't have the faith. He's telling that wife, respect your husband anyway. Love him anyway. Because some of these wives, especially in Corinth, were thinking, they're not a believer. We need to leave that marriage. We would say divorce. We need to divorce them. We need to leave. That marriage need to be broken up. You know what? And it may not be the same situation here, but it seems to me that Peter's saying that if a wife is a believer in Jesus, but the husband is not, she's still to respect him. You know? And then it talks about um the chast's behavior and not having external features that the pagan women would have. Where it says not braiding your hair and wearing jewelry and all that stuff. Don't be like the wicked pagan women. He ain't saying you can't look, he's not saying you gotta dress like the holiness people do and wear um not like I can lack a better word, ugly clothes
Hmm.
and no fancy jewelry and not no makeup. He's not saying that. He's saying don't dress like the pagan women. Um then he says then he talks about um having a gentle, quiet spirit. And then he says, we're gonna move on to verse 7. Verse 7. But before we do that, um I often say this section here, First Peter chapter 3, especially the first 6 verses, are wrongfully taught. I think they're taught in error, and it's very dangerous. But groups just do it, and they think they're right, and they think they have to teach it that way. Why, Lori? Why do you think these Christian groups and fundamentalists and the patriarchal guys? What do you think they're so adamant about teaching these things, even if they are inaccurate? Um, Teaching these roles of husbands and wives in marriage, even if they're wrong. Why do you think they do that?
The only thing I could think of is that they just want an excuse to lord over their wives. They just want an excuse
Yeah,
to dominate
that's wrong.
and to be the authority over their wives, and they have no say in anything.
Yeah. Christ is the Lord.
Mm.
I'm not the Lord over her. You know, well, you're the master. I'm not the master. I'm not her master. I'm not her boss. I, you know, I'm responsible for her, and I don't think that I really demand you do anything.
Mm.
No, I don't have a leash on her.
Mm.
That's it's just it's amazing to me the mind frame of these fundamentalist patriarch guys or whatever. So, and we're gonna finish this, and we're gonna move on. But the whole point of this video, my last video, and another one we did, is to let you know that we do not adhere to the teachings of these guys, just like this Doug Wilson guy you saw in a CNN interview. That's not us. We don't adhere to that. So finally, I want to ask about Peter's comments about loving your wife as a weaker vessel. Let me read that. So verse 7 here, your husbands in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding as someone who's a weaker vessel. I'm reading the New American Standard and it says something different, but King James Version, I think the ESV, CSB has it wrong. The weaker vessel is the correct translation. I'm not going to get into that, but trust me, I'm an amateur Greek
Mm-hmm.
reader, but weaker vessel is correct, and I'll explain what that means. Um, love your wife as the weaker vessel in an understanding way, as with someone. Since she's a woman, show her honor as a fellow Arab grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. So the weaker vessel is something that's fragile, something you got to hold with care, like a vase. If you don't try to manhandle a vase and you throw it, it's going to break, it's going to shatter, and you're going to crush it. So that's what I think about when it says, treat your wife like a weaker vessel. She's fragile. Don't try to rough her up. Uh, don't be um, rough with her the way you talk, the way you act, emotionally, physically, mentally. She's a weaker vessel.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you should teach her. So, Lori, in your own words, as a woman, how would you explain a wife as a weaker vessel? And how should a husband love her as such?
Uh, well, honestly, like it or not, men are um physically stronger than women, for the most part, and I'm good with that. I like that. Uh,
Some women are not.
some women are not, but I like him being the stronger one and knowing that he's gonna protect me, and I'm okay being the weaker vessel. I think on it, this may make some people mad, but I also think mentally, emotionally, he's more of the logical one, and I'm more of the emotional one.
maybe,
So
maybe
that could
Joel,
just be
maybe
personality, but
Joel Evans right about the whole women not being professional chess champions. I think I don't know what I know what he was saying, but like Joel, man, we could have used a better example. Okay, go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, that's okay. It's
Mm.
just, I want you to be able to protect me and manage our finances and um, do those things, and I'm okay with that.
Worry about cars breaking
Worry about a
down.
car breaking down. Whew, we've had too much of that going on lately. But and sometimes I think I don't think enough about what you're carrying, and acknowledge that. I just kind
But
of assume.
but but as a husband, I should think about what you're carrying and realize that I can't treat you like I would another dude because you're not
Mm-hmm.
another dude. You're a weaker
Yep.
vessel. So I need to realize that she's carrying a lot of stuff, and I need to acknowledge that as such.
Yep. And
Uh,
he did that today. I like to give real life examples. So y'all know we're not just telling you what to do, and we're not living what we're telling you what to do. But just like today, he knew I had some schoolwork to do, and I get stressed out if I have a lot of schoolwork to do, and then I need to clean I feel like I need to clean the house, and I feel like, and he always tells me, you don't have to do all that. Just like I'll do this today, and I'll take care of this, and so don't worry about it. So he did that today. He's like, you go do your schoolwork, and I'll take care, the laundry or whatever. So
okay. Well, that's about it. Do you have any parting words? Anything to add?
no,
Okay, so we're gonna move on from this, and we'll try to figure out what we're gonna do next. But that's it. We want to just move on. We're not gonna talk about Doug Wilson no more. We're not gonna talk about patriarchy or fundamentalism. That's it. So we just wanted to clear that out. We, as a Christian marriage um, YouTubers, we don't promote that type of marriage. We don't promote that type of fundamentalism. So if you find us on YouTube, what you have, you want to tell us about us, we're not like the guy you saw on CNN. That's not us. We're not fundamentalists. We're not hardcore. Um, I'm the boss and she does what I says, or else we're not like that. And we're not liberals where she runs and she wears the pants and she tells me what to do, and I just yes, yes,
beat
yes,
you down.
and nope, we're not like that either.
Nope.
I'm I say we're not none of them. We're not complementarian. We're not egalitarian. We're none of them. We're just
Try
trying to,
try to be biblical. That's
yeah,
what we're
we're just
trying to do.
trying to love each other like Christ would expect us to. So, and that's it. So, I hope you get something out of this. And if you do, give it a thumbs up and tell others about us and subscribe if you have not already. And we'll hope to see you next time. All right.